watching the reenactment of a crime through the eyes of a police officer on a foot beating. At the moment, everything seems to be under control, but in 15 seconds, you will be faced with a life and death decision. To shoot or not to shoot? What would you do? You've just been shot at. If you were a police officer, how would you react? I'm Peter Falk. You probably watched a lot of police shows on TV. When a cop gets in a tight spot, what happens? Bang, bang, bang. Bad guy goes down. Cop hopes it's a 38. Goes off to dinner at a fancy restaurant. The end. This show's a little different. Because you're going to be put in a real-life situation where you're the cop. You'll have a split second to decide whether to shoot or not to shoot. And you may not always be sure just who the bad guy is. And maybe there is no bad guy. So if you think you'd be a good cop, stick with us. You may be in for some surprises. Just like the real cops. The first police revolver was issued to an American law enforcement officer in 1850. For the next 130 years, violence and controversy have surrounded all attempts to keep the peace by using a gun. This year, police bullets will kill an estimated 600 people. At the same time, almost 100 police officers will be gunned down. While critics of the police say they shoot too often, supporters claim they are overly restrictive. But both sides agree on one thing. It is unlikely that we will ever disarm the police. We're not here to put the cops on trial. We're not going to put them on a pedestal either. We're here to take a look at what it's like to make a split-second decision that could cost you or someone else your life. Let's step into the shoes of a cop in a shoot, don't shoot situation. Stop, police! I'm taking a test for police officers. The film I'm watching shows a recreation of an actual police drug raid. It's a potential shooting situation, seen through the eyes of a cop. Get there! Go! My guide in this test is Sergeant Bruce Linsenmayer of the Pasadena Police Department. What do you think? Well, I was very uncertain when we first walked into the living room. But I like the fact that I didn't shoot as we were going up the stairs. I didn't feel that my life was, nobody was imminently in danger going up the stairs.
And when the guy popped up to shoot at you, you responded. Maybe a little slower than you should have. As soon as he jumped up with that gun, it should have been. You just right away. First thing we'll be here to outfit you with a police holster.
Beverly Dawson is one of 25 citizens we invited to take this same test. Beverly is a social worker who works with ex-convicts.
Hold it out a little bit more like that. Squeeze in.
This will be the first time she has ever fired a gun.
Squeeze through on the trigger. Not too bad.
No.
No.
Ringing in the ears. Sometimes I don't think the police can do their jobs very well. I guess I feel that there should be more restrictions on the use of guns by police officers.
Richard Rich is an architectural designer who will also take the test.
There are other ways to take care of the problem without shooting them, without going to deadly force. By having to take their gun and shoot someone with it means that they weren't able to control the situation in a more human and civil sort of way.
We're going to put in.
Beverly and Richard will be given a blank-loaded revolver. They will fire at the screen when they think it's appropriate to shoot, or take cover behind objects provided in the film. They are not required to shoot. They have simply been instructed to respond to each situation as if they were police officers. You can take the test too. It may feel a little funny at first, but use your hand as a gun. You point it at the screen, and imagine yourself as the police officer in charge. If you shoot, you should base your decision on the FBI guidelines for the use of deadly force. Shoot only when your life, or the life of another, is in imminent danger. Listen carefully to the radio calls. They're your only source of information. Now get ready to shoot, or not to shoot.
Unit 137 reported a possible child molester. Reed Park, suspect described as a white male adult, last seen wearing a white t-shirt, gray sweatpants. No further information.
Police officers, don't move!
How did you react? When you were fired? Before we see what you should have done, let's see how someone else responded to the same test.
How many times did you think that you fired your gun?
I think I fired 4 times.
Okay.
Is that right?
That's right. What were you shooting at?
Man,
The man that was running? The same man that shot at you, who was running in amongst all those children when you were shooting?
I like to tell the children.
You had an obvious life-endangering situation. You had your suspect who was running a zigzag, evasive type course across the field toward an area of cover concealment, and he was running in and amongst children. And for you to pull your gun and think that you can John Wayne or pick them off as they run would be a bad assumption. The second thing is what lies beyond the field. And what was back there in the background was a house, had some lights on in the house and some bushes and that sort of thing. Out of those bushes ran a child that was playing. He was one that was shot at the last time. So all in all, that was a completely no-shoot situation.
Unit 137, armed robbery alarm at Friars Liquor Store, 5119 Hoover. No further information.
What do you think?
I think I might have shot the clerk.
Probably so. Yeah. Probably so. And more than likely, you have been killed again. Well, I think that in this case, you don't necessarily want to be really quick. I think in this case, you want to get in your cover. As soon as that gun comes up, you know that you have probably a clerk standing on the right side, an elderly lady on the left side, and a suspect in the middle, and a very narrow corridor. And you duck down, but maybe off to the side would have been a better choice, behind some of the containers. Not that they would stop bullets, but they wouldn't let the bad guys see them. So probably there was a don't shoot situation, really because there were other people in the unit that fired.
How did you react in those situations? We'll have more throughout the program, but first let's see how other citizens responded. 47% shot as the suspect ran through the park. 21% shot as the child ran from the bushes. 14% shot at the suspect, but 24% shot at the manager. More important, 90% took no evasive action and could have been shot. They would join over 750 police officers who are injured by gunfire each year.
1033. My partner is being shot. We are at 1405 East 61st Street. Request an ambulance. 13 Adam. I never envisioned myself getting into any shooting incident. It's like it always happens to the other guy. Unfortunately, it happened to me this time.
No cop expects to get shot, certainly not on a routine call, but that's when it happens about half the time. 4 months ago, Jim McSweeney was approaching a house on a neighbor disturbance call when he saw a gun poke out of a window.
All of a sudden, I saw a puff of smoke. I looked down at my arm, and it was covered with blood. My initial response was, that son of a bitch shot me. An instant later, my next thought was, my God, I'm going to die. My arm was outstretched like this. The bullet went in here, exited here, and then struck me in the chest here.
McSweeney's life was saved by his bulletproof vest. The bullet caught in the very edge of the webbing, resulting in a superficial chest wound and a large bruise. 6 weeks later, McSweeney was back to work.
I've got a Model 60 in my left rear pocket. I've got extra rounds in my top shirt pocket, right side. And I carry a boot knife. And I got the Farland speedy loader. It seems a bit paranoid, but up until I got shot, it wasn't really in my mind that anybody could shoot me.
Very few officers escape the emotional after effects of being shot. Many retreat trying to avoid dangerous situations. Others try to control their environment by being more aggressive.
We're conducting an investigation, PCP investigation. You understand now?
Thank you. I just want to know what's going on.
Check them out. Immediately after the shooting, I was very uptight about people who did not follow my direction. Ed took me aside one time and pointed out certain specific points where I had to be less aggressive. Yeah. Hey, Mike, you can come here and take a look at it. Whoa, that's it. Right. Things are not back to normal in any sense. They'll never be back to normal. I think about it constantly. I had problems sleeping, and there are other problems that are too personal right now to talk about. Hey, buddy. It's always in the back of your mind. Anybody can shoot you. You got everybody? Well, Mike, you want to
Unit 137 reported a burglary in progress, worldwide storage 5420 Greenbrier. No further description.
On this situation, a warehouse, you shot. Why did you shoot? Who were you shooting at?
I was shooting at whoever was escaping, but perfectly honestly, I couldn't see very much.
Could you see the person you were shooting at?
No.
But what you have is a property crime, a burglary. You don't have a life-endangering situation at this point. Those three people who ran were children. One of them had a skateboard. Oftentimes the lighting is such that you can't see clearly, so the justification to shoot is very, very thin, and in this case would be a no-shoot.
The average police officer will fire his weapon at a suspect only once every 9 years. but the memory of that confrontation can be the most vivid of his career. For Alan Fairchild, it began as a family disturbance call.
We got up to the apartment. We knocked on the door. The door opened, and my partner didn't look out. We had it. At this point, a knife in a man came flying through the door in a motion. My partner stepped back. He was in front of me. We both tripped and tumbled down the stairs. He went over the banister and fell about 10 feet, landed on his head. And the man had come down the stairs and was stooped over my partner holding a kitchen knife in his hand. The man picked up my partner's arm. I drew my revolver and I cocked it, told the man to freeze. He, whether he didn't understand me, whether he was drunk, I don't know, but he didn't drop the knife. He waved the knife around and I thought he was going to steal my partner. I shot one time, bullet hit him in the arm. He dropped the knife and fell back. I didn't feel, like I was going to pass out or get sick or anything. I couldn't tell of any feeling. But by the time I left the scene, which was after the man was gone in the ambulance, my partner had gone in the ambulance. They left me to drive the radio car, and they wouldn't let me because I was fumbling a little bit. So it was hitting me about the time we left the building. I got to the precinct, I'll tell you, if you never did it, you see gun shows on TV and cop shows on TV and shoot them up and everything. Believe me, if you haven't shot anybody before, it's not the greatest feeling in the world.
Unit 137. Report to the sniper on the Santa Fe tracks overlooking Highway 91. No description suspect or weapon.
There he is on the track. Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Hold it right there! Come on, watch it. Hold it right there, Johnny. Reach your hands back. Hold it, please! Don't move! Go, watch out! There he is on the track. Hold! Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Hold it right there!
Verbal command.
Hold right there! Stop! Breathe! Hold it, please! Don't move! Go, watch out!
I think I probably just killed an innocent person.
You killed the deaf mute. Shot them with your gun. Why did you do that, officer?
Well, I thought he had a gun.
Yeah, when he pulled it out of his back pocket.
What did you think? What did you think that he was pulling out?
Well, I thought he was pointing out a gun.
Legally, it would be a justifiable shooting based solely on the beliefs of the officer. What was his state of mind at the time? Whether or not it would be a justifiable shooting in the eyes of the community or in the officer's own eyes afterwards is a entirely different story.
The legal justification to shoot centers around the officer's sense of imminent danger. If he has reasonable cause to fear for his life or the life of another person, he can fire. For Jim Harris, the shooting 5 years ago still haunts him, even though it was legally justified. It happened when Harris and his trainee were called to a barroom disturbance. They went inside with the owner, but as they entered the office, Harris turned for a moment to check on his trainee. When he turned around, the owner had moved behind the desk.
I saw him drawing a handgun from a drawer. My immediate feelings and emotions was that of tremendous fear. I just knew that at any moment the weapon was going to discharge and the bullet was going to strike me. I immediately began to move to my left as fast as possible, and upon reaching the position of cover, I just brought the weapon up and fired where the man had been standing. I saw in my mind's eye small black hole in the white shirt that he was wearing. I saw his body begin to tremble as he raised his arms parallel, his hands parallel to his head. He then dropped the gun from his hand. His whole body trembled as he turned and began to walk towards me. I backed up in fear, and as he was walking towards me, he said, "I wasn't going to shoot you." He then collapsed on the floor. I saw a large pool of blood begin to form. There was a roaring sound in my ears. As I walked out of the kitchen area into the bar, I heard people shouting, "That's him." He's the one that did it.
The bar owner died almost immediately. Jim Harris was faced with the possibility that he had just killed a man who did not mean to be a threat to him.
What was that man going to do with the gun? When he took it from the drawer and he pointed it at me, what was he going to do with that gun? That question is in light of what he said to me before he fell to the floor and became unconscious. He said, "I wasn't going to shoot you." Well, that particular question will probably never be resolved in my life. It's an unanswerable question.
Most of us talk about a cop's decision to shoot, but a better word might be reaction. Once it starts, the average shooting is over in 5 seconds. That's not a lot of time to make decisions. Now let's see how you do in the final shoot, don't shoot test.
Unit 137, man with a gun, 3824 University Avenue. Contact hotel manager Joe Sabatello.
Yeah, there's a guy upstairs with a gun. Try again. I don't know. He had it in his hand. The guy looked like a big white guy. What kind of clothes he wearing? I don't know, man. He scared me. Okay, all right. We'll go check it out. You wait here. Yeah, all right. Stop the rain. What's your name? George Henry. George, what you doing here? I'm a maintenance man here. Lift up your shirt. I'll show you your belt line. Don't shoot. Lift it up. Turn around. Slowly. Keep going. Okay, get out of here. Walk fast. Come on.
shot here, you risk shooting an innocent hostage. If you shot here, it was tactically correct, although taking cover would probably be safer. If you shot here, you were shooting an unarmed man as he tried to surrender.
Unit 137, family fight in progress, 9349 Bruce. Part 7. Part 7. Part of a holiday, 280 Indian Ocean Boy.
Ma'am? Ma'am? What's the problem here?
I want to get out of my house. I'm not in there anymore.
Well, if you just calm down and explain to me the situation.
I'm not going to calm down. I'm not going to explain nothing. This is the last time you're going to hold me to me. I want to get out of your house.
Okay, I'll hear you out, and then I want to hear his story.
No more here. No more. Listen, I want to get out of my house. Hear me? Not going to be any more things to be done. I want to get out of my house.
Okay, I'll hear you out, and then I want to hear his
No
story.
more here. No more. Listen, I want to get out of my house. Hear me?
As soon as you spot the woman's gun, you should take cover, draw your own gun, and order her to drop hers.
Not going to be any more things to be done. I want to get out of my house. I'm tired of hearing all the lies.
At this point, for your own safety, you should shoot. But like many grave situations in police work, your own instincts and moral judgment will come into play. There is no absolute right or wrong in many shootings. The decision must be based on tactics, policy, and experience combined with your perception of danger. It is ultimately an individual human decision.
Hold it, please. Don't move.
I found that as I was acting out the part, that my heartbeat was going up, my breathing got to be very shallow, and I could feel I was very nervous. One thing that did surprise me was that my first reactions were as I would have expected them to be, not to shoot. And after I was shot a couple of times, I got to be looser with the gun, and by the end of the test, I was much more inclined to shoot than beforehand.
I think that the police department is very lucky not to have me as a member of the force. I made the wrong decision almost every time. Once maybe I made the right decision. Put on your gun. It's a totally different way of looking at the world, and I think that's important in understanding the police and how the police and the community relate. I think it's important for both sides to know that their view of the world is different.
Of course, no one police officer could have gone through the variety of confrontations that you've seen today. Still, any officer who goes out in the street well prepared knows that he or she could be involved in a shooting at any time. And the unfortunate reality is that everyone, including you, is a suspect until proven otherwise. So if cops seem a little too cautious, or aggressive, or suspicious, it's good to remember that we're paying them to be that way, so that we don't have to. It's the high and sometimes deadly price we pay to have peace officers wage our war on violent crime.
A person at 13 Adams partner has been shot. He's at 1405 East 61 Street. Tip on the ambulance. Are there any suspects outstanding?
We have one barricaded suspect, 13 Adams.
And for the other barricade suspect at 1411 East 61 Street. Is there any out there in one or less only?
With 71 pounds, is rolling at about 5.
You want Tom 2 drawing at 5?
13 Adams, my partner has been wounded in the right shoulder. He is okay. He is walking. We are continuing the location. 13 Adams.
Temper, there's numerous units responding. Keep the air clear, please.